Welcome back, guys. I am back with another video on the verbs of Polish present tense. This present tense that we're looking at could be compared to the present continuous in English because the action is not really completed. It's in the process of happening. So that's for your information as well. As we know, there are 4 groups of conjugations in total of this present tense. We've already finished the first group and there's 8 videos in total on that. Today, we are looking at the second group of conjugations. So the first group of conjugations, we have a summary table here, has had 6 group endings. Okay, there was a variety of different endings there that we had to memorize, etc. But in comparison, the good news with the second group of conjugations is that there's only 3 groups. So that's nice. We've literally cut that in half. The bad news, however, is that there's quite a few exceptions that are present in this second group of conjugations, particularly in the group 1 endings each. Okay, but let's not panic. I am here to explain it all to you. So first thing we're going to do is we're going to look at group 1 of conjugation 2. Within this group 1, there are 2 types of verb endings. Okay, so the infinitive does end in the each, but we have 2 types of verb endings to attach to the stem we're forming. So these are the ones for type A, we're going to call it. And there's type B that we will look at in next week's video. Type A, we could kind of memorize it and is sometimes referred to as the ish endings of this group of verbs, but and you'll understand later why really. So it's ish, imy, icie, on. So as you can see, there's not much of a change in comparison to the first group, conjugation number 1. We literally just substituted the E letter with the E letter in Polish. Literally, that's all we've done. The letters changed. The third person plural and first person singular have not changed. Okay, so that's a good news. It's not too much of a difference, but as always, everything makes much more sense when we look at the verbs in context. So, the first verb we're going to look at is dzwonić, to call or to ring like a bell or something. Okay? So, dzwonić. What do? We follow basically the same pattern of trying to form the stem to then conjugate the verb that we've seen in the other videos of conjugation 1. In conjugation 2, we do the same. So we take off the chi letter of the infinitive, okay? We are left with dzwoni, and we attach the verb endings. However, in Polish, there is no doubling of letters. Particularly, we're talking here about vowels. So even though the verb stem that we've created has the letter I there, dzwoni, the verb endings also have the letter I. So because of that, we are just going to have 1 I in the conjugated verb and not 2 I's because we don't do that in Polish, okay? Vowels, there's no doubling of vowels. We just don't do that. So there you go. Just remember that. And that will be applicable basically for any verb that we're going to be conjugating. If the vowel is the same, of course, here must be the letter I. We just going to keep 1 I. So what do I mean? How does this verb look like then? Well, simply it looks like this. Ja dzwonię, dzwonię, ty dzwonisz, dzwonisz, on, ona, ono dzwoni, dzwoni, my dzwonimy, dzwonimy, wy dzwonicie, dzwonicie, oni, one dzwonią, dzwonią. So that's basically what I meant. Let's look at another verb, okay? So, CIERPIEĆ, cierpieć, to suffer. Okay, that is a very dramatic verb, but it's going to be very good because I have a couple of things to explain to you. So, What do we do first? Yes, we take off the letter chi of the infinitive. So we are left with CIERPIEĆ stem. But another rule you have to remember, we cannot have 3 vowels beside each other, not in this combination. Because of that, because of this kind of rule of thumb, it's not always applicable. Everything has its exceptions. But as a rule of thumb, we don't have 3 vowels beside each other. We have to take off that e. And particularly for the phonetics, we do that for the phonetics because if you would imagine this verb with this stem, we would have to say in the first person singular, CIERPIEÄ. Doesn't come out naturally and it's hard to pronounce. It forces you to do kind of the stop, kind of hard stop, CIERPIEÄ, because you have to accent the letter. It doesn't work. So because of that, we're going to take off that e. And then we're going to add the verb endings. And again, there is no doubling of vowels in Polish, so we're only going to have 1 letter I in the conjugated verb. Ja cierpię, cierpię. Ty cierpisz, cierpisz. On, ona, ono cierpi, cierpi. My cierpimy, cierpimy. Wy cierpicie, cierpicie. Oni, one cierpią, cierpią. Let's look at another verb. Okay, I think looking at examples is the best way. So the verb bawić się, which is to play, and it's a reflexive verb because we can see the reflexive pronoun here, się, that is just basically added at the end of the verb, and that's it. So what do? We take off the letter chi, okay, of the infinitive, so our stem is bawi, and then we add the verb endings. First person becomes ja bawię. But what do we do for the second person? The same, we have bawi plus, then we add the verb ending ish, and what do we have? Bawisz? No, remember there is no doubling of vowels in Polish, so we're just going to have a single I. And the final verb looks like this. Ja bawię się, bawię. Ty bawisz się, bawisz. On, ona, ono bawi się, bawi. My bawimy się, bawimy. Wy bawicie się, bawicie. Oni, one bawią, bawią. Another example, grabić. Okay, grabić. To rake, like leaves and stuff. What do? We take off the letter chi. We are left with grabi, the stem. So it's exactly the same pattern as we've noticed in conjugation number 1. And after we have this newly constructed stem of grabi, we add the verb endings. And there is no doubling of vowels in Polish, so we're going to have only 1 I. And the verb becomes this. Ja grabię, grabię. Ty grabisz, grabisz. On, ona, ono grabi, grabi. My grabimy, grabimy. Wy grabicie, grabicie. Oni, one grabią, grabią. We're going to look at one final example because it's quite an important verb. I mean, KROIĆ. KROIĆ, to cut something, and this verb usually refers to food, okay? Just bear that in mind. You're not going to use it, for example, cutting with scissors in English. Like you're not going to use it in this way. There's a different verb for that. But here, KROIĆ, remember, usually refers to food. So what do? We do the same. We take off the chi, we have the stem KROI, and then we should add the verb endings, yes? So the first person would look like this. It wouldn't, because it would be hard to pronounce, okay? So, because of that, we change that letter I in the first person to letter J to allow the pronunciation. It basically is required to be changed from I to J for softening purposes. Okay, so it occurs actually in the first person singular and in the third person plural, because the ending for that person is on. So on, those Polish vowels that are so famous with this twirly little thing, they are going to soften the sound. They will require the softening of the sound in this particular verb we're talking. Not every verb will act this way, but if it's hard to pronounce, most likely yes. Because if I am trying to pronounce it with letter E, it sounds like this. KROIĆ. It doesn't. It just doesn't sound Polish. It doesn't sound good to the Polish ear. KROIĆ. Because you need to soften this sound. That's why we put J. And that's why the sound is ja. KROję. You see the difference? KROję, KROIę. We don't have those types of sounds. KROję. And basically then we follow all the normal rules, and the final verb looks like this. Ja kroję, kroję. Ty kroisz, kroisz. On, ona, ono kroi, kroi. My kroimy, kroimy. Wy kroicie, kroicie. Oni, one kroją, kroją. So because the letters that are following the letter I are consonants or lack thereof, the sound is naturally softened. So note that I'm not saying ty kroisz, I'm saying ty kroisz. It softens itself. But if we have the special Polish vowel, that doesn't happen, because we need to accent that letter, the special vowel L. So that's why this change occurs. Always try to train your ear in recognizing Polish sounds, because this will often tell you how the verb should be conjugated, if you should change something, etc. Because it has to have this particular Polish sound. Okay, so kroję doesn't exist, but kroję, yes, it does. And basically, that's it, guys. I hope you enjoyed this video. I know there is a lot of information. Go through it again, make your notes, try to, write those verbs yourself, test yourself if you remember some of those rules. And remember, practice makes a master. I'll see you next week in type B endings of the second group of conjugations. So until then, see you and take care.